Let's talk about the social media age ban. You've committed to it. Can you confirm what sites you're looking at the ban applying to? Facebook, Insta, Twitter, TikTok, anything else I'm missing? Is it Discord and other messaging apps?
There is a whole range that we're looking at the moment, and there's different categories depending on the definitions that are used. So the Online Safety Act, for example, and how the Safety Commissioner defines certain categories can actually be very broad or it can be slightly narrow. So we're looking at that as part of our formulation of the legislation, which we said we will introduce this year. But again, I would make the point similar to the ones I just made, that we do want to be comprehensive here. We understand that young people partake in a range of social media activities, and we want to make sure that this is relevant and appropriate to how they're accessing it.
Which do you prefer as an age for the ban, 14 or 16? We're
looking at a range at the moment. This is a live conversation that's happening. The South Australian Premier is favouring 14, Premier Min 16. There is a wide range of views, and there certainly is, I think, given Justice French's very good work, one that needs to be tested and one that has a national approach. One thing we have found so far in the age assurance trial is that there is a marked difference between age assurance as it applies to younger ages as opposed to higher ages, and it can also vary depending on ethnicity and also gender. So we're very mindful of ensuring that as part of the...
You mean whether the technology works in terms of accessing social media sites? Is that what you mean?
That's right. In terms of if you've got an age assurance technology, whether it's recognition, facial recognition or some other forms of assurance, it can actually vary. Andrew, there's no off-the-shelf solution for this, which is why we've been very deliberate in making sure that we are looking at a range of ages and reaching one that is appropriate for the circumstances.
Briefly, why is the ban necessary?
Well, I think twofold. Firstly, parents around Australia are looking for a normative value here. I know, as a mother of a 12-year-old girl, there is something very potent about being told everyone else is doing it, there's no clear guidance, why am I being singled out? So parents have told me directly that there is a real normative value in having that there. And the second point really goes to the overall reason for this, and that is we understand that there are harms. While social media has many benefits, enables a lot of young people to connect where they otherwise might have been isolated, it comes with those harms. And the evidence is in on the range of those harms. The evidence is in about the need to ensure that young people have a balance. And so the government intends to pursue this, and this is despite the fact that Meta has made this announcement. That doesn't obviate the need for us to take action in this space.
Let me play you what your shadow David Coleman said about your misinformation legislation last week.
This bill, Andrew, if you're an academic, something you say basically can't be misinformation. But if you're an ordinary Australian who disagrees with an academic, it can be misinformation. One of the things in the bill, the kinds of harm that is not allowed, is something that might cause imminent harm to the economy or the stock market.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I mean, that's basically every economic policy that the Greens have ever announced. So are we basically saying... Are we basically saying, under the misinformation bill, that, effectively all Greens' economic statements are misinformation?
All right, his criticism is your definition is just far too broad.
Well, let's be very clear. The Coalition can't have it both ways. They've got on their public website at the moment a commitment to introduce legislation to tackle harmful mis and disinformation. And at the same time, they're going out there saying basically that they don't support this. I suggest that the Member of Parliament there reads the actual bill. I suggest that he understands precisely what the scope here is when it comes to mis and disinformation. It needs to be something that is verifiably false and capable of causing harm. And this is a high threshold for the high threshold. But secondly, the harms are actually, and the actual categories here are defined. So these are, for example, harms to personal health or safety. They are harms to critical infrastructure, for example. And in terms of his comments about academics, again, I suggest that he read the bill because as this has been developed, this has been done in a way that corresponds with our international obligations, recognises the fact that harmful mis and disinformation is actually having an impact on not only Australian democracy, but on the safety of Australians. It's position that is supported by
Just
our
very
top
briefly,
spy and our defence
I'm
head.
out of time. The penalties we've been told could be up to 5% of the global revenue of a big tech company. What might be the penalty for an individual?
Individuals aren't being fined.
Okay, there you go.
This is a matter that goes to the conduct of the platforms and their systems and processes.
Just finally, the ABC and this botching of the Heston Russell story, how can this just be pinned on an editing error? Is it time the ABC did more to own its mistakes? Are you concerned they didn't see this for 2 years? Do you have any confidence in the ABC's so-called independent review?
Well, it is concerning, and whilst I know you'll appreciate that the ABC has operational and editorial independence, it is not beyond scrutiny, and it does need to be transparent. It is concerning that this has taken some time to emerge. As you're aware, I have asked for a briefing when this investigation is done. My understanding is the investigation is not yet complete. And while this is being done independently, which is a positive thing, the ABC still needs to answer to the Australian public. It is not beyond scrutiny, and it is an area where I have expressed on the record a concern for what has happened here. The ABC, whilst it is independent and it is our public broadcaster, it does not always get it right, and it needs to own it.
Communications Minister Michelle Rowland, thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure.